Time for an oil change? Head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. We've also got you covered when it comes to oil changes, thanks to Pennzoil Synthetic Motor Oil, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
That Cincinnati gets to stay at the Hyatt. We got to stay at Comfort Inn. Cincinnati gets to eat at Ruth's Chris. We got to eat at Wendy's.
Bridging down the bracket with people who stay at the Hyatt but use the free Wi-Fi from the Comfort Inn next door, who order off the menu at Ruth's Chris but only pick up the check at Wendy's.
He liked it so much.
Right.
He kept going.
Also, look at this. LeBron last night in Phoenix. LeBron in Phoenix in 2014. The NBA synchronicity is next level. That's fine wine.
Logo at half court difference.
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter. Here's Tony Reali.
Don't forget to sign up now. ESPN.com Tournament Challenge. Group name Around the Horn. Mute this. Here's what you do. You enter. You beat the panelists. That's going to happen no matter what. And you win the greatest prize known to humanity, ownership of Woody Page's chalkboard for a day.
Oh, yeah.
All right? Good. Let's start with Georgia State's Ron Hunter on his 15th.
They told us today that Cincinnati gets to stay at the Hyatt. We got to stay at Comfort Inn. Cincinnati gets to eat at Ruth's Chris. We got to eat at Wendy's. But when it comes Friday at 2 o'clock, we're going to be ready.
Isn't that what the tournament's all about? Cincy Georgia State is a 2-15 matchup. You know, in the 1-16 matchup, 16s are over 132 all time. Here's 538. Starting with Pablo Torre, Penn. The best 16 seed of all time. Pablo picked Penn over Kansas. I want to know if any of you are going to pick a 16 over 1. If not, give me a top 3 seed you don't think makes it through either the first game or the weekend. Adonde, start us off.
Now, come on. I've seen how those 16 picks have worked out for Pablo Torre. He gets muted into oblivion. I do think, though, you should watch at the number 3 line, and particularly Michigan. Here in Big Ten country, there was much consternation about the conference moving its tournament up a week so that it could play in your part of the woods, Tony, in Madison Square Garden. Mm-hmm. And that, as a consequence, Michigan, even though it went all the way through the tournament, hasn't played since March 4th. So you wonder if that layoff will have an adverse effect. And that's coming from a guy who knows a thing or two about layoffs.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Jay, you do.
It's been a while since you've seen me. It's been a while. No welcome back, nothing?
I had to follow that for a second. Israel Gutierrez, how about you?
Yeah, no, Pablo's going to die alone on that hill. But I will give you a couple of top seeds that won't make it out of the first weekend. I've got Xavier possibly losing in the second round, whether it be Florida State, although I think it'll be Missouri. Well, maybe you get a Michael Porter Jr. that's sort of hot and carries his team past them. I understand Xavier has a couple of seniors, Blewett and McClure at the top. And they're, that's what you want. You want leaders that are seniors that are your leading scorers in this time of the tournament. But I can absolutely see the other thing happening, the star power really taking over for Missouri. But I'll also give you Tennessee. I think Tennessee could easily lose to Miami in the second round. I think most of those teams in the SEC, maybe outside of Kentucky, can lose to pretty much anybody. They can beat almost anybody, but they can lose to anybody. So I got Tennessee losing.
Right, guys. Sola's question is top 3 seed that doesn't make it through the weekend. You looking at one?
You know what? I'm pulling for Virginia. They had a great regular season. They won their conference championship, but they lost DeAndre Hunter, who has, he was the ACC Sixth Man of the Year, terrific defensive player. And when you look at Virginia, they win because of their defense. Now is not the time of year to have a key player hurt. You just wonder if maybe Virginia, unfortunately, has already peaked.
So you think that's the second game, Creighton or Kansas State, right? Yep. Or are you picking UMBC to beat Virginia? The overall
No. Look out for Kansas State. They could be pretty tough.
Woody Page, how about you?
Well, we know the pen is mightier than the sword, but trust me, Penn is not mightier than Kansas. So forget about that one. And forget about Virginia losing. All you guys got it wrong. And Israel, I want to single in on you. There's no way Tennessee's going to lose to Miami in the second round because Miami's not going to get to the second round. They're going to lose to Loyola of Chicago, which is going to beat Miami and Tennessee.
Okay.
They got Dante Ingram, a great young kid. They finished 28-5. That Coach Moser does a great job with Chicago. Jay, you should be checking that team out.
Okay, fine. When we're talking underdogs, it was that Ron Hunter speech. I just love that. Hyatt's versus Comfort Inns, Ruth's Chris versus Wendy's. Does that work on any of you? Do you think it works on a team, Jay?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I would take into consideration in the brackets. Which teams are being overlooked? Which teams are being disrespected? And in a kind of inverse way, you wonder if that actually helps Xavier. People are saying they're one of the weaker number 1 seeds out there. That might actually help them prepare and help them avoid an upset. Just because
Israel, you just picked against Xavier, so the floor is yours now.
But look at the Eagles. Like, go ask them which mentality works better, the underdog mentality or the overwhelmed mentality. Obviously, you're going to want to play up that underdog role and get your guys really hyped.
Frank?
Nah, I don't buy it at all. Talent wins out, and you look at some of these teams in the tournament. I get it. We all pull for the underdog, but teams like Cincinnati, even Xavier, those first-round games, they're too tough to knock out.
Woody Page.
Well, in Nashville, you can stay at a Comfort Inn for $71. It costs $181 at the Hyatt. So maybe if he'd have gone double stacks for $1 for the week, they could have stayed at the Hyatt. But it's going to have no effect whatsoever on the game. They lose.
Frank says they've got no chance to beat Cincinnati. In the last 4 years, and I just only went back 4 years, a 1 seed, Villanova 2 years ago, 2 Louisville, Xavier was a 2, Michigan State was a 2. A 1 or 2 has gone out in the first weekend each of the last 4 years, and I stopped there. I could have gone further back, I think. But I'm not hearing a whole lot. I'm interested in Isola with Virginia there. Okay, I'm going to keep an eye on that one. That could be worth big points when we come back on Monday. Can we talk the playing game for a second? Because I say this every year. If you're going to do it, and really, if people don't pick it when they fill out their bracket, why are you doing it to begin with? But if you're going to do it, it needs to be at-large teams, not the teams that won their conference and rightfully made and earned their way into the tournament. Radford over LIU last night. It's Texas Southern and NC Central tonight. Those at-larges, though, Arizona State, Syracuse tonight. Last night, St. Bonaventure beating UCLA. Overall, do any of you have a takeaway to the play-in, and specifically that last result, St. Bonaventure beating UCLA? Do you see that as proof the committee should maybe think more about mid-majors over big conference also-rans, Woody?
Well, I think what the NCAA is needing to do, based on what we've just seen, is have 8 play-in teams and let them play each other and then get into the tournament.
More play-in.
That way. Pardon me?
More play-in teams? You think this tournament needs more play-in teams?
Well, look who got left out. Middle Tennessee State deserves to be in there. We talked about USC. If you had 8 teams, they play each other, Tony, and then you go into the tournament. That way that you add it another week. That's all you have to do, and you have a situation where you got more teams involved. That's the way to do it. Right now, when you got 2 lopsided kind of situations, I don't think it makes sense. So you either get rid of it or you add to it and take care of some more teams.
Adonde, you watched the play-in last night. You found yourself thinking what?
What the heck was Holiday doing there in the last minute with all those turnovers? But also, I also found myself thinking, you know what, this is actually an argument for having the big schools and the big conferences in these playoff games because it made it more significant. You heard the St. Bonaventure players and coaches talking about how much it meant to beat UCLA. Even though they weren't playing against Kareem and Bill Walton and Marcus Johnson, it's still UCLA. It's still a name-brand program in this particular tournament, which is devoid of star players. So the NCAA has to keep in mind that this is a television production that they're putting on. So it helps to have the big names in there in any way you can get them in. And I don't weep for the mid-majors when they can get in the tournament by winning their conference tournaments. Yes, in order to compete in tournaments, you have to win tournaments.
Israel Gutierrez, how about you?
I mean, how can they sell it? They can sell it by, like J.A. said, putting these bigger teams in there and then just making it, hey, can you upset these guys? I don't sell me on 16 versus 16 or the St. Bonnies or what have you. And here's the other thing. If you're going to sell me on it, put it somewhere other than True TV. Sell it to a place where, if you believe in it, then prove you believe in it. Don't put it on some channel that I have to go find and be, okay, where is this again? Because you obviously don't think that much of it. So, yeah, I would say either expand it or get rid of it. But if you expand it, it better be a bigger deal than it is now.
Right, Isola.
One of the local teams here, we don't have a lot of them in the tournament, LIU Brooklyn. If you win your conference tournament, you should be one of the 64 teams playing on Thursday or Friday. If you're a bubble team and you're an at-large team, that should be the play-in game. So have Syracuse, Arizona State. I have no problem with that. But to me, if you win your conference tournament, especially these smaller schools, let them be one of the 64 teams definitely playing Thursday or Friday.
Woody Page after the horn.
Well, I think that Israel makes a lot of sense there, that you need to act like it's a major event rather than, it's minor league ball here. We're going to put them off somewhere where nobody pays attention to it, and that's exactly what you get. It's not even part of the bracket. People.
That's what I said earlier. You're right, Woody Page. I mean, if you don't picking the game, it's not part of the bracket. That being said, I feel like this is a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. Having said that, a team that played in the play-in games has won a game, their next game, which they call the second round, which is really the first round, 7 years in a row. And we all remember VCU in 2011 making the Final Four. So we've been horrible. Move on. NBA news of the day. Klay Thompson, fractured thumb. He's going to be out the next 2 weeks. That looks like 4 games on their schedule as is, and then he'll be reevaluated. Curry's already out the next 4 games with the ankle. Then he'll get reevaluated. The whole team was out after Curry's 30th birthday party. Warriors 2 games back in the Rockets. 10 up on the number 3 seed. So, Frank, big deal, little deal, or no deal?
That was some party Steph Curry had. Everybody's hurt. I think it's a big deal from this standpoint. They're not going to get the number 1 overall seed. They're not going to get the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Houston should be able to get that. Toronto still is a contention for the best record. Remember this, too. Golden State will finish second. I'm still not ruling out Kawhi Leonard coming back. What if San Antonio would have finished 7th overall? So you know what? Golden State, to me, is still the favorite, but the road could be a little tougher this year.
But looking at the standings, San Antonio could just as easily finish 8 and get Houston in the 1 seed. They're all bunched up. Gutierrez, big deal, little deal, or no deal?
Oh, I think it's a pretty big deal when you consider that their main goal coming into the playoffs or going into the playoffs will be to be healthy. Well, I mean, you're sitting there, you've got Steph Curry who's going to strengthen that ankle, but we saw how easily it got injured this time and even one time at a shoot-around when he was just running across the court. And if you look at Draymond Green's shoulder thing, like, zoom in on his elbow one of these days. Like, focus in on his elbow. He looks like he's his right elbow. It looks like he's hijacking a grapefruit in that thing. So there's probably something wrong with his elbow, too. And anytime you get Klay Thompson sort of out of rhythm there. I asked Steve Kerr the other day before a game, have you guys had that run where you feel comfortable that you've played championship-level basketball? And he said, yeah. He said he's been happy with their defense especially. But I don't think I've seen it, especially not the way you've seen it out of the Houston Rockets.
You see what Israel did right there? Better move. I talked to Steve Kerr the other day, and I asked him, well, that's how you get points to the show. Jay and Donde, how about you?
Reporters. Well, I used to talk to Steve Kerr when I was doing his report.
Okay, thanks.
He came and visited my class at Northwestern. Thank you, Steve Kerr. But when we weren't talking, we've been observing the Warriors. And last year, how Kevin Durant missed a lot of time, came back in time for the playoffs. They were not adversely affected. So as long as they're healthy, and I don't think it will matter if they have home court advantage. All the dynasties that we've seen, at some point, those teams, Jordan's Bulls, the Shaq Kobe Lakers, they had to go on the road to start a series at some point, and they still were able to prevail. So this will be kind of the last test for the Warriors to see if they're up on that level.
I was talking to my neighbor Al the other day, and he said to me that what I should realize here is that Durant, without those guys, can't carry that team to number 1. And what they need to do is, and they're not going to get any outside shooting when you're missing Klay and Curry. So I think the idea here is that you use as much of your bench for those last 12, 14 games and get yourself ready for the playoffs and not worry about the seeding. And by the way, San Antonio's going to play nobody because they're not going to be in the top 8.
Well, that's all in play, too. I mean, 3 and 10 right now are separated by, 1-2 games in the loss column. So to be jockeying for position to see who you're going to play, you have no idea who you're going to play. Last thing on this, though. That first Warriors Champions run that they went on, remember LeBron, a couple other players were whispering, oh, yeah, everything broke their way. Nobody got injured. And the Warriors like, come on, you can't knock us for that. Well, now they're seeing the opposite end of that. Taking a break right here. Buy or sell on the other side.
Around the Horn is brought to you by A Quiet Place. In theaters everywhere, April 6th.
State Farm, Robert here.
Robert, somebody burned down my she shed.
No one burned down your she shed, Cheryl.
Oh, really, Victor? Because my she shed's burning up in the backyard.
Your she shed was struck by lightning, Cheryl.
Robert, does State Farm cover my she shed?
What's a she shed? She turned our shed into her hideaway, Robert. Oh, yeah, that's covered.
You hear that, Victor? I'm getting a new she shed.
Can we stop saying she shed now?
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm. Talk to an agent today.
Buy or sell.
You guys see Baker Mayfield's pro day today? John Elway was there, up close and personal with Mayfield. Woody, the Broncos are signing Case Keenum as we speak. Would they be wise to also draft Mayfield at 5? Buy or sell?
Sure, it's a 2-year contract, so they're still looking for a long-term solution at quarterback. They've watched Baker Mayfield, coached him at the Senior Bowl. They watched him and talked to him at the Combine. So there's got to be some interest there. And John Elway's gone from 6'7" quarterbacks, Brock Osweiler and Paxton Lynch, now to the other extreme with 6-footers, and he's trying to find another Drew Brees.
Donde?
I'm buying the Broncos keeping their options open with Case Keenum. After all, the Vikings had Case Keenum, went to the conference championship game with Case Keenum, kept their options open, thought they could upgrade by giving Kirk Cousins $84 million guaranteed. So I don't mind them using a draft pick on a QB.
Israel, how about you?
Interestingly enough, Steve Kerr had a great take on this, too. He said that when you look at these situations in the top 5, happens all the time with these teams reaching. And man, it's just really interesting to watch. Like what he said, John Elway just really trying to get this quarterback thing right to the point where he's probably going to draft one right here where he doesn't even need to.
Isola.
Guys, need I remind you, his job is to show up at pro days and scout players. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to take them. But what I do think about John Elway, he's always looking for a quarterback. I think the problem is he's trying to find John Elway. Those players don't come along very often, but I'm not so sure. I think Case Keenum's going to be his guy for a couple of years, and then guess what? This time next season, he'll be looking for another quarterback.
NFL free agency was an awesome tribute to Stephen Hawking. It all happened before NFL free agency started. Time is a flat circle. Let's talk about the Packers. Jimmy Graham in, Muhammad Wilkerson in, Jordy Nelson out. Buy or sell Green Bay's moves, Jay?
I'm buying him. I think Graham has more left that he showed in Seattle. It's just a bad fit there. Didn't work with their offense. And Wilkerson, you're having a good pass rusher with a defense that was in the bottom half of the league in quarterback sack last year. And guess what? They're also adding a healthy Aaron Rodgers, which is a bigger upgrade than any team has made to its roster since the end of last season.
Israel.
I'm going to buy it, and I know Aaron Rodgers has to feel this way about losing Jordan Nelson. They've been together for so long. They know each other so well. But the one thing we've always wanted around Aaron Rodgers, or guys that we know are elite receivers, are elite skill position players to go along with, obviously, Aaron Rodgers being an elite quarterback here. So I want to see what this could turn into because it could be something great.
I counted 4 elites there from
begging for mute.
You guys have cheapened to such a degree that you get muted for it. I sold it. How about you?
You know, the most prolific quarterback-wide receiver combination in Packers history is Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson. But by cutting him, you save $10 million. And guess what? The consolation prize is pretty good. Jimmy Graham, 69 touchdown passes over his career, and now he gets to play with Aaron Rodgers.
Woody Page?
Jay, let me help you out. Graham was lost and injured when he first got to Seattle, but 10 touchdown catches last year. The guy is back to the form he had in New Orleans. This is an upgrade for the same price. You get a tight end they haven't had in 2 years.
Jordy Nelson, can we just ask real quick? You all think he's going to the Patriots, as everybody on the planet does?
Patriots.
Raiders, Seahawks, Saints, also in play for him. Does he have anything left? I'm just saying Patriots. Every time a player comes available, it's, he'd be great in the Patriots. Right. Okay, fine. We'll move on. Speaking of the Patriots, they say goodbye to Malcolm Butler, as we know. Malcolm Butler says hello to the Titans. So he goes from being benched by Belichick for the Super Bowl to going to a Belichick Patriot, Mike Vrabel, as does Deion Lewis. Buy or sell Tennessee's Patriots South approach, Israel.
I had honestly forgotten elite was on that list of words. I apologize for that. But I'm buying this. I am looking at this as, hey, Malcolm Butler didn't apparently lose a dime for that Super Bowl benching, which means that the rest of the NFL is very much confused by what the Patriots do also. But I also think if you can take Patriots players, you take guys that still seem like they're producing. Deion Lewis seemed to be producing last year, and so did Malcolm Butler, at least till the end.
Tony, I do not trust ex-Patriot players. I trust the current players for some reason, with the exception of Jimmy Garoppolo. When guys go someplace else, it seems like they fall off the cliff, and I think this is going to be the case with Malcolm Butler, unfortunately.
Woody Page?
I agree with Frank. If you're going to go the Patriots way, you need Brady, you need Gronkowski. You don't need these other guys. They dump guys all the time before they should maybe be dumped, but they go on to just mediocre careers. They're doing it right in New England.
Adonde.
Exactly, Woody. The Patriots way is moving on from players, maybe a step too soon, but not suffering adversely for it. The Patriots way is not adding people that the Patriots discarded.
H. Adonde. Just barely getting into the shutout. Israel Gutierrez, we are putting a tank watch on Israel right now. After that segment. Yes. 11. Make it a 10. Frank Isola.
I was trying.
Yes, you were. We do appreciate that. You'll see that. Woody, Jay, showdown next.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of